Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Edmonton Arts Council presentation in collaboration with Deaf and Hear Alberta. We're very excited today to be joined by ASL interpreters Robin and Alicia, and to present this session for you about our equity and access in the arts programming, grants for individuals and collectives. This video presentation will be available with the slides, some instructions, and closed captioning for your viewing later from Deaf and Hear Alberta. I'd like to start today with a land acknowledgement. The Edmonton Arts Council acknowledges the traditional land on which Edmonton, Amiskitchi Waskaegan, sits, and the territory of the Treaty 6 First Nations and the homeland of the Métis people. We would like to recognize and thank the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as the Nahewa, Cree, Dene, Anishinaabe, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, Nakota Iska, Niitsitapi Blackfoot, as well as the Métis and Inuk Inuit peoples. It is a welcoming place for all peoples who come from around the world to share Edmonton as a home. Together, we call upon all of our collective honored traditions and spirits to work together in building a great city for today and future generations. I'm going to be your presenter today. My name is Misha Marie Nelson, and I have a background in music from Grant MacEwan University, and I have experience in arts administration, but I was also a public educator for the last 10 years. So I'm very passionate about this type of outreach and sharing what we do here at the EAC with people like you. This presentation today is about the Equity and Access in the Arts program, and it's a grant for individuals and collectives. We hope to explain this grant to you and give you information about the application. Grants are one of our methods of supporting artists, and we really want to assist you with your applications and any opportunities we can. What we can't do is give you the right answer or guarantee future funding. So as artists who are doing your work, we want to make sure that you know what is a grant. So a grant, a public sector grant, is a contribution from someone like us, the Edmonton Arts Council, to help you do your work. There's usually some defined guidelines, and the funding will have to be reported on back to the person that you get the money from. There's lots of things in the guidelines, but we also talk about artistic merit. Artistic merit is a combination of your experience, your skills, your development, and your promise in your continued career as an artist. In public arts funding, most grants are categorized as operating grants or project grants. For an individual artist like you, we're going to talk about project grants today. Something to know about public sector grants is that they are not loans, investments for return, as in you don't have to give us a percentage of the money that you make. It's not a gift, and it does have to be included on your taxes, depending on your status with the government of Alberta. So for you as an artist, where can you find grants? One place is here at the Edmonton Arts Council. We're considered your municipal level of funding because we get all of our funding from the city of Edmonton. There's also the provincial government, and that's through the Alberta Foundation of the Arts. So the provincial government gives money to the AFA and they distribute grants. And then there's the federal government. The Canada Council for the Arts gets money from the government of Canada to distribute grants. Each of these granting levels, municipal, provincial, and federal, will have guidelines and restrictions. It's important to read the guidelines and ask questions before you apply. Here at the Arts Council, you can always ask questions through email. So how do you get started? You're an artist. You need funding to do your work. So we ask that you create a profile in our online portal. We're going to be sending an additional set of instructions to Deaf and Hear Alberta to post with this video. So make sure you have those open when you're going through the process. It will help you with a lot of questions that you may have, and you can always email us as well. But you need to create a profile in our online portal. This portal is called Smart Simple. So you're going to log in online, tell us all about yourself as an artist, set up a profile, and in that profile, you can also indicate if you get support from someone like an ASL interpreter or someone else to fill out your application. And then we can communicate with you and your support person as well. This is where you keep track of all of the applications that you do for us and if you've received any recent active funding. So after you've created a profile, it's always great to sign up for our weekly newsletter. We send out a newsletter every week on Thursday that keeps you as an artist updated on all of the granting programs that we have to offer, as well as any job postings about arts positions in our city and any events that you might want to attend. Our newsletter also contains articles about artists in Edmonton that you may want to learn more about. You can find our newsletter sign up on our website. And then another way to get in touch with us, like I said, is you can email me or someone like me. So I'm one of 3 program advisors here at the Edmonton Arts Council, and we can be reached through email or phone or in person. If you do find that you'd like to speak with us using an ASL interpreter, we can definitely take time to set that up with Deaf and Hear Alberta. So make sure that you send us an email and we can get that process started. So let's get to specifics. What is the Equity and Access in the Arts grant? This grant is intended to support artists that may have faced barriers to access celebrating their work, sharing their work, learning about how to be an artist. But it's not limited to, groups or people that have faced barriers, but it could be through, your heritage, or identifying as deaf or having a disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, immigration status, coming from an Indigenous community that maybe didn't have the supports. And it could be that you're serving a community through the project that you're doing that may identify as having had barriers. So the artistic work of these projects supports an individual artist or a collective of artists. I like to think about those as the difference between, something like a painter doing their own work from their own perspective, or something like a band or a dance group that work together all of the time. To be eligible for this grant, you have to live in the city of Edmonton, which is an Edmonton address, and or the communities of Enoch, Cree Nation, Alexander First Nation, Paul First Nation, or Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation. We support these Indigenous communities with our funding because they don't have access to a municipal funder like some of the other cities outside of Edmonton. This grant for equity and access in the arts does not support organizations, advanced education at the university level that would lead to a degree or diploma, or any costs that occur before the deadline of June 15th. When you're looking at grants, there are a lot of different definitions of terms that can help you understand what is being asked. Some of these terms are specific to the Edmonton Arts Council, but many of them are used at those other levels: municipal, provincial, and federal. The first one we'll learn is primary applicant. This is you, the artist, the person submitting the application. Once again, if you get support from someone with your application, you are still the artist and they can help you fill it out. If you're working as a collective with a group of other artists, someone still has to be the primary applicant. Then we have collectives, a group of artists that work together. So as I gave an example, bands are often considered collectives. Dance groups often are considered collectives, but sometimes you might have a collective of visual artists, 4 people working on a mural on a side of a building, or possibly a group of people working on a film production. So a collective is usually a group of people who are equally invested in the artistic work that's being done. Project collaborators are other people that are a part of your project that you are paying or being hired to do their work. So this may be other artists. This could be administrators that are helping you do something. There are other people who don't share in the artistic vision, but are receiving some sort of funding or are in support of the project. Artist subsistence, we set at $500 a week to cover living expenses. Subsistence is different than a fee or a wage. So I might have a fee or wage for my work that is a certain amount of dollars an hour. Subsistence is instead of that. Subsistence is intended to cover your regular living expenses while you pursue your artistic work. So think about those two things as different. Subsistence is regular, so it can cover your living expenses, and fees and wages are for specific hourly things or sessions that you would do as an artist. When you set up your profile in Smart Simple, it will ask you for two things that you have to write in yourself. These include your artist statement, which is a description of your existing practice of work. This can include your influences, your motivations on being an artist, themes that you engage in your work, cultural practices, and maybe your lived experience as an artist. We also ask you for a short biography that summarizes your life and career highlights and any education you might have that is relevant to your artistic practice today. Sometimes in your application, particularly if you're looking at advancing yourself as an artist and working with others, you may have a mentor. A mentor is someone else in your artistic discipline that is experienced and that you trust, that you're going to be working with fundamentally through your project. They may offer you advice, counsel, or training while you're working on your artistic work. In the same way that you would engage a mentor, you might engage an elder who is a highly respected member of a First Nations, Métis, or Inuit community, who is recognized and identified as carrying the important wisdom of the culture that they represent. An elder would share their understanding with you through teachings, ceremonies, stories, and/or songs, and can often be a family member of the artist or someone else committed to the project. You may also have someone who identifies as a knowledge keeper be a part of your project. This could be someone who fills an elder role or a mentor role, but is generally someone recognized by the elders of an Indigenous community as being a knowledgeable person about cultural practices, products, or worldviews. Those were a lot of terms. And if you have any questions about them, please reach out to us through email so that we can help you. Let's talk more about the grant. Project funding. So most grants are project focused. You're doing a specific thing. You have a specific set of outcomes or goals before you apply. This may or may not be included to a product. Sometimes it's the difference between I'm going to write songs and I'm going to produce an album. Both of those things are a project, but they have different scopes. I'm going to write a play. I'm going to produce that play and put it in front of an audience. Both of those things are valid projects, and both are eligible for granting opportunities. Pre-planning your goals is very important. Hopefully, you'd be engaging in the work regardless of whether or not you get a grant. And then the grant comes as a bonus and a reward for your excellent planning. Consider that your project has to be reasonable in the timeline you've set out with the expenses that you have in your budget. So what kinds of things can you apply for? Our projects are kind of categorized into 3 different streams. So when you look up the guidelines for the Equity and Access Grant, you're going to see 3 different streams with a specific focus and intention. You can only apply to one stream per grant deadline of this program. So you have to make decisions before you apply. Let's talk about stream 1. This stream is intended for creation, experimentation, and/or research. So it doesn't have a specific product at the end. We want you to commit to doing the process of work, but not for a specific product. For stream 1, you don't have to provide a budget. So the amount of the grant is fixed at $5,000, which supports your subsistence, those living expenses, and any additional costs you might need while you're just pursuing the process of your artistic work. It's important, if you're applying for a stream 1, that you have some well-defined goals for what you're going through. If you're creating something, what are the goals of that creation? If you're experimenting, what impact do you hope that experimentation is going to have? So think about the process and what the process means to you in your overall trajectory as an artist when you're applying for stream 1. When you're assessed in the grant process for how your grant comes across and if you might get funding, your assessment is based on the guidelines that are laid out, as well as the artistic merit of your work. So that's your expertise, your skills, your experience, your promise, as well as the clarity of the idea that you present. Did the assessors understand your goals? Do they understand the impact of this project on your future work? That's the intention of stream 1. Some examples of projects for stream 1 include researching different compositional styles or artistic styles, revising a second draft of a play, exploring new painting mediums. Maybe you do watercolors, but you want to learn acrylics. Researching and exploring new movement vocabulary. Maybe you're a dancer and a movement specialist, and you want to learn new ways to move. Or experimenting with new lenses or filming methods. One of my favorite projects for stream 1 that I've seen was a photographer looking at how different skin tones came up in different filming techniques for photography. The goals were very clear, were to research and learn about how different skin tones worked on film, and then to make sure that they had the equipment and the knowledge to go forward and take more photographs. So it had a lasting impact on their future work. Stream 2 is very different from stream 1. Stream 2 focuses on skills, development, and training for you as an artist. Like we said, not for post-secondary. This isn't so you can go out and get a degree in art. This is training that you might get from a mentor, as we discussed, an expert in your field, possibly attending a conference. I happen to know that there is a deaf and hard of hearing conference that has an artistic panel in Alberta. Maybe you're going to that to learn from industry experts in your field. So this supports individuals or collectives to receive mentorship, attend a residency, or some other kind of professional development. Often these days, there's online mentorship that you can get or online courses that you can take to help develop your skills. Those are also eligible for funding in Stream 2. In Stream 2, you have to provide a budget and you get up to $10,000 for your expenses. This can include that living amount of artist subsistence to do your work, as well as travel related expenses to attend professional development. It could be for the fees for the course or experience that you want to take, fees for your elder or mentor, and material costs for any of the work that you're intending to take on during the course of your professional development. The assessment for Stream 2 is based on these guidelines and eligibility, but also your artistic merit, so your experience and your skills, how the project will have a lasting impact on you as an artist, including your goals. So make sure you're clear about your goals. And then what we call the feasibility of the project. From what you've presented, does it look like you're going to be successful with the budget that you've proposed, the timeline you've suggested, and with the scope of work? So make sure your goals make sense for the kind of project that you're doing, and your timeline is accurate. Some examples of Stream 2 projects include working with a mentor for a month to develop new costume design skills, attending a literary conference in New York for a weekend, a collective of dancers attending a residency to establish new movement, or taking an online course in web development for your artistic practice. And then Stream 3. So Stream 3 is for artist-driven, that's you, you're an artist, major projects, big projects. Think large scope. Stream 1 is small. Stream 2 is a bit bigger. Stream 3 is really big. So this supports something that is materially ready for production or presentation, or projects that involve large collective creation leading to production or presentation. Applications need to be connected to a specific work or specific project. And the decisions of how to deliver that product or presentation should already have been made. Budgets for this stream can be up to $25,000 and need to be based on the anticipated costs, knowing that sometimes that shifts when you go through a project. So it's important to have appropriate fees for everyone committed to your project, to know when and where your project is going to happen, to have collaborators and other people involved committed to the project. It's really based on you're ready, you're there to do this large thing. The assessment for Stream 3 is based on the guidelines, as well as your artistic merit, your excellence, your skills, your expertise, your growth, the clarity of your project proposed. So that includes your timeline, what you've told us about what you're planning to accomplish, your presentation or production plan, as well as the feasibility of the budget and the clarity of the timeline. So making sure that your costs are accurate, providing quotes sometimes is really helpful in your budget. Some examples of Stream 3 projects include recording a musical album, recording a video or a film, installing an exhibition of newly completed visual work, Those of you that are visual artists know how much it costs to mount frames for work. Completing and publishing a graphic novel. You've seen a huge rise in graphic novels, which is excellent. Or a collective of dance artists creating and presenting a work that's going on tour across Canada. Big projects. So that's a lot of detail. Overall, what does this mean? Be prepared. You have to plan. Granting is based on how good is your plan and how well can you tell us about it. So you need to have a strong timeline. You need to make sure that the people that you're working with are committed and that you know who they are. You need a solid budget that matches your timeline and your proposed work. Make sure that your budget is reasonable, balanced, and reflective of current fees and wages for artists. You also need supporting material. This often includes your portfolio as an artist, so samples of your artistic work to show us your skill and your development, but can also include things like quotes for your budget, letters of commitment from collaborators that you're working with, or any other material that you think will strengthen the idea of your project and how it comes across to assessors. So sometimes, and this is a really interesting one, sometimes we say that, written skills are difficult, but I would say this is where possibly having a support person comes in, specifically if you are deaf or hard of hearing. Working with an ASL interpreter to provide a video in your supporting material could be really helpful to get your point across. Right now, I'm finding it helpful to have interpreters to communicate with you. So whatever makes your idea come across best, that could be you on film, that could be you with a support person helping you get that point across. It could be a short video of you doing the process of your painting or your graphic novel. Whatever you think could help with your application, those things are important and specific to you and your journey. If you wonder if something should be a part of supporting material, just send us an email at the Edmonton Arts Council and we can help you. So common feedback themes. This is after the assessment process. Oftentimes we get feedback from the assessors on how it went. So assessors we'll get to in a minute, but important things to have in your application is to be clear. Clarity counts. Be specific and be realistic. Don't tell us that you're going to become an international superstar painter in 3 months. That's probably not going to happen. So be realistic and be clear. Be consistent. Your details should be something that we can look to make sure that everything is accurate and everything makes sense together. All of the pieces of your application need to lead to the next thing. If you tell us that you're a dancer, we should see a video of you dancing. If you tell us that you're a painter, we should probably see some photos or evidence of your visual artwork. And then those things should also be reflected in your budget and your timeline. Make sure your supporting material is reflective of your art and your proposed work. So if you're telling us that you're a writer, but you don't include any writing examples, that's not going to help the assessors learn about you. So make sure that there's some examples of the work that you plan to do. Include those quotes that we were talking about for your budget, or letters of commitment or support from other people that you're working with, as this can help add to the feasibility of your project. Make sure your budget is separated in different lines. Make sure it's clear and ordered well so that assessors don't have questions. They want to know how you're going to spend the money. And remember, you have to report on it later if you're successful. So the more clear and accurate you are in the application, it's actually easier for you in the future to report back on. It's really important that you focus on the art. We are the Edmonton Arts Council. That's the big theme. We want to support arts and culture in Edmonton. So make sure to put yourself, the primary applicant, front and center. You are the artist. You and the work of your collective are the important things. So make sure that it comes across that you're excited to be an artist and a creator, and why you make art. What is your artistic vision? What are you trying to say with your work? The assessment criteria focuses on your artistic merit, but also the clarity of your project. So those things about planning and detail are important, and not audience members or social media presence or monetary need. Art first, and why we make art. Let's talk about assessment. Now you've done all the hard work. You've put in an application. Congratulations. What happens next? Sometimes people think that we as staff at the Edmonton Arts Council review your applications, but we don't. They go to a separate panel of community members who are artists just like you, who value and are committed to artistic work in Edmonton. These assessors are selected, and they represent the demographics and skills of the application and the Edmonton arts ecosystem as a whole. We make sure that assessors don't have conflicts of interest. They have to sign confidentiality agreements so they don't talk about your applications outside of the assessment process. They're very knowledgeable about the arts and the field that they work in, and can work in group decision-making, because it does happen as a group. And through their process, they make recommendations for who gets funded, which are then approved by our Arts Council board. If you're successful through the assessment process, yay, excellent. You have to sign a contract with the Edmonton Arts Council, because that shows that you're committed to doing your project. Once you sign that contract and you're funded, you have to do the project. You're obligated. It is now a commitment between you and the Arts Council, or any funding body that you have committed with. After the timeline for your project is up, you need to complete your final report about how successful you were, how did the project go, including your budget. Remember that grant funding is taxable, so you're going to need to report on that, keep track of it, and report to it annually to the CRA. So remember, as great as it is to get a grant, a successful grant is not a stamp of approval for your artistic career. You can be an excellent artist and have excellent ideas and still not get a grant. We only have a limited budget as well. So know that about 25% of applicants are funded at any given intake. An unsuccessful grant application is not an overall statement about your work, and definitely not about you as a person. You can apply several times and be successful or unsuccessful. It's just a process that we go through. And if you are unsuccessful or successful, you can get feedback that can hopefully contribute to your journey as an artist continuing. The process of assessment is very human. So as those decisions are being made during that process, there's not really a right answer. So make sure that you have all of the details outlined in the guidelines, and that's your best chance going forward. A positive outcome of successful funding is not guaranteed. Always have another plan to fund your project if you're committed. We also like to give you additional support or assistance filling out your applications when we can. You can get what's called draft application assistance from a staff member like me. So if you go into that Smart Simple system and you fill out an application, you can send us an email and we can review your draft application and let you know if there's anything that you've missed or something that isn't clear. We also offer in-person drop-in application assistance this month. The next one is on June 9th, but that can happen with any intake. So if you're watching this video and it's not the current intake, it's not, June 2023, that's okay. Check in with us about when those drop-ins are going to be. We also offer an additional piece of funding for access support. So this is support of up to $500 for anyone facing a barrier while completing an application. This could be that you need a typist, a translator, an interpreter, or something else to give you a hand with that application. If you think that you might qualify for access support and need to pay a support person to assist you with applying, please send us an email before you start your application so we can figure out what kind of supports might work for you. If you have any questions after viewing this presentation, please, like I said, send us an email at grants@edmontonarts.ca or give us a phone call if you'd like to speak to someone or have someone in your support team speak to someone at the Edmonton Arts Council. We're absolutely here to make that time for you. And we hope that you are successful in your granting. But at the very least, we hope that you learn something along the way and that it helps with your continued artistic practice. Thank you very much for viewing the session from the Alberta Arts Council today. We hope that we see your applications come through for the Equity and Access in the Arts program. And thank you so much again to Deaf and Hear Alberta and our interpreters, Robin and Alicia, for being here with us today.